Well, let's get started here. Have our Espanoletta, and we've got our music out. We're ready to go. We're going to take a look at the first practice section. How did I choose this as a practice section? Well, music oftentimes happens in 4-bar phrases, and so that's the first thing I looked at was, is there a natural breaking point at about 4 bars? Bum bum da 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 dun da da dun 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 dun. That's a pretty much. Once we get to the end of that, we're going into something else, right? And so we want it to overlap all the way over the bar line, and so that's where we came to it. Whenever you're actually practicing this section might be too large. In that case, just make it smaller, split it into 2, but always go over a bar line. So to begin with, bum bum bum. It might be that that's a good section for you, especially if you're memorizing. If you haven't done this before, then just looking at those 3 notes. You'll look at the rhythm. You'll look at your right hand, you'll look at your left hand, do all of that, and you've got that one little section really nice. And that's perfectly fine. And then tomorrow you can do another bar, all the way to right there, and then all the way to right there, and then just add it on. So it doesn't matter how much you do. What matters is that you do it well, and then you keep doing it. Even if you did a measure a day, this wouldn't take you more than a couple of weeks, and you would have this entire piece, and it would be incredibly clean and well memorized. Speaking of memorization, as you learn it, you might as well. So just have in mind the intention to memorize it, and even if you don't, you'll learn it faster and learn it more thoroughly if you act like you're trying to memorize it. So even if you don't want to memorize it, pretend like you're going to memorize it. Look at it and say, I'm going to remember this. Everything that we do, I'm going to test myself on it from memory, even if it's just for a minute right after I do it. So it'll just make you learn faster. So to get started here, first thing we're going to do is we've got our small section. We're going to ask, do I know what all the notes and the musical markings mean? So do I know all these notes? That's the first thing to glance through. Do I know this note? It's a high note. The other ones are all in root position, but then this gets up to, this is the 5th fret on the 1st string. So that's the 5th fret, Roman numeral 5. So we know that. Do we know these letters up here? P-A-M-I, P-I-M-A, I mean. So thumb, P, index I, M, middle, A, annular. So we've got that. The small numbers on the staff are the left-hand fingerings. Open means just the open string, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So we know that. What is this? That is a rest. It just means that the bass is not playing for that part while these other ones are playing. So that's what those are. MF, what does that mean? Do you know? It means medium loud. Grazioso, we talked about that. It means graceful. This is a metronome marking, 104 to 116. That's a final thing, so we don't need to worry about that now. And yeah, so I think that we know all the notes and the musical markings. That means we can go right on to the rhythm. So we're in 3/4 time. And since we're in 3/4 time, that means we're going to be counting 1, 2, 3 for each measure. So 1, 2, 3. We also have this 8th note right here, and that means we're going to have ands. So we're going to be constantly counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and the entire time. So that's how we're going to be counting this out loud. The next thing we can notice is that the first measure only has 2 beats in it. And so this is called a pickup measure, and the 3rd beat will be made up at the end. And so it'll all work out in the end, but right now we're not leading in with 1, 2, 3. We're leading in with 2, 3, 1. And that just brings us right to, boom, to this point right here, this big note. 2, 3, 1. That gets us in. And that's where our bass enters too, so it really makes a statement. So when we're practicing this, we want to clap it and we want to count it. And we want to make sure that we get this note. This is the note. It's called a syncopation. And that means it's off the beat. It's not boom, boom, boom. It happens boom, boom, dun, dun. It happens off the main beats. So to clap this, we have 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3, 1. And so then this falls on the and of 2. So then clapping this, 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. So make sure that you get this, because this happens all through the piece. So we want to make sure that we have just absolutely got this dynamite. Seal up this rhythm right now before you go on, or else you'll get it in your ear some funny way and it's not going to sound right. if you practice anything enough, it'll sound right. And so we want to make sure that we've got it right to begin with so that we can know when we get off of it. If we do something wrong, we can be alerted to that. Our ear will say, wait a second, that's not right. So that means right now we have to be able to do that. And the way to do that is to count out loud. So 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3, 1. The dotted quarter, this dot right here, means that it gets half, again, as much as whatever the note is. So a quarter note plus a half a quarter note, which is an eighth note, equals 3/8. So we have 1 and 2. So that gets 1 and 2, and then that gets 3. Well, that gets the and of 2. So then looking forward, we have this rhythm repeated over and over. So we have, this is still the same. We have this rhythm is there, then we have straight quarter notes, then we have that same one again, then straight quarter notes. So now we have our entire section of our rhythm. So next we're going to look at the right hand alone, and I know this is crazy. I know it's a totally weird thing to play just open strings and it doesn't sound like the piece and you want to just jump right in and start playing the piece. But instead, once you know that you're going to actually learn this piece, then we want the right hand. We want to know exactly what's going to happen in the right hand, exactly what's going to happen in the left hand, and then do it consistently every single time, and so we can learn it faster that way. If we do it with a different right hand fingering every time, then whenever we get in front of people, we get confused and it gets funky. So instead, we're just going to do just the right hand by itself. That means we have to know where our string crossings are, right? So you can look at this and just visualize it in your head. Where is this? So that's the third string, going to the second string, all the way to right there. Then we go up to the first. Boom, we go back down to the second. There we go to the first, and we stay on the first and the whole time from there. So those are our string crossings. So now we can just go slowly and look at the M and the A and everything else. So we start with the M on the third string, A on the second string. So we have 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. I'm going to stop right there in the middle of this. And notice I didn't play the bass right there. The bass confuses things. And so what we can do is just leave it out for the first run, get our fingers, because we know it's going to play the bass, the thumb's going to play the bass. We can just get our fingers set, and I'm just going to right here, because this is a big section. And then just doing that a couple of times. 2, and always counting out loud. 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2, 3 and 1. I'm just going to continue, and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. So if you can keep counting out loud through all of these, then you'll ingrain that rhythm and always have it. Of course, I'm going kind of fast, but I've been working on this song, so I know this song. So whenever you're first learning it, go as slow as you need to make sure you're playing exactly the right finger. If you if you know your core arpeggio patterns, your core right hand patterns, if you're in the Woodshed program or working with a program that uses primary right hand patterns, then you can look for those in there. You can look for I and M alternation. You can look for shapes like AMI right here, all of these kind of things. So then when we get that, then we can add the bass in. We can just quickly look at the bass. What do we have? Our first bass note is the 5th. Then we go to the 3rd string. Then we go to the 5th string again, then the 5th string again, then the 4th string at the end. And so then we can put that in with the fingers. So it sounds like 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. And then that's what it's going to sound like. Not much, but if we can get that, then we can know it, then we'll have it really consistent. Now at this point, it's a great thing to test memory on just that. And that's a lot, that whole entire line. We actually could have done this with the rhythm. So you have the rhythm memorized, so that you look away from the music and say 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. So you can go through there, test your memory of the rhythm by itself for the section. Now we can test the right hand for the section, or just half of it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. I messed something up, so I don't have it memorized, this. But you could test your memory on that. Look back over. Where did I mess up? Oh, I get it now. If you test yourself on memory at this point, one of the things you can look at is this top. Here's an A, but then we go into M and I, and we're just M, I, M, I, M, I, M, I, all the way to there. So you know which finger is going to play next. It's the M or the I, whichever just didn't play. And then we have an A, M, I, and then the M right there. So we could do it that way. Then you just have to know where your string crossings are. You can test your memory in that way. It's a whole lot easier to do it this way than to do everything at once, learn the entire piece, and then just hope to memorize it. So it's a way to test as you go. Well, then we can do our left hand. Once we get our right hand, then we can go to the left hand. We've already been visualizing the left hand in our heads anyway, just to get the strings. And so now, no right hand. Right hand, tie behind your back. So then we have 2, 0, 1, and 2, and 3, and 1, and 2, and 3. Whenever you have, just to look at this. So here we have the 1, and then here we're going to the 3 down here. It's going to be tempting to lift this kind of thing, but instead we want to really connect those two, because we want our melody to connect well, which is the open, but that means that we want the bass to go right into time. So boom. So just make sure that you're holding that all the way until this. Get that 3 over there, prep it, rock onto it like that. Then hold that 3 while this other stuff goes on. 4, 1, 3. You can just continue to hold it because it's the same note. So make sure that you don't lift in here while that's, because we want to keep it playing. 1, 2, 3. Now, here, we're jumping up to this position. So we can just say, okay, time out. Where am I going? There's the F, 3rd fret, 4th string, and then there's the A up here. So we want that shape, but we're down here. 1, 2, 3. We're going to have to jump. So then the question is, where do we jump? And the answer is on this 8th note right here. So we hold this all the way into there. So we're counting 1 and 2 and 3, jump. 1. So 1 and 2 and 3 and. Pop it up there and then drop it in on the downbeat. So hover, get there early and hover, and then drop in. Boom. So the whole thing. 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. Get ready with the 3. 1 and 2. Hold it. 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. Jump. 1. So I just did it really fast, but you can go slow and really place each of those things so that you have that absolutely tight. Once you do that, review your right hand one more time, because you've taken a break from it, and so make sure that you know exactly what fingers you're going to play. And then we can put them together extra slow using corrective pauses whenever we need to, but 0 wrong notes. What's my next note? B. Okay, now what's going to happen? Take as long as you need, but don't play any wrong notes. Don't guess. Also, if you play it with the wrong finger in the right hand, it's wrong. So make sure that you've got the correct right hand fingering in there. So we have 1 and 2, I am. And there's the 4 finger there, P and I, M, I. Get ready with the 3 down there. 2, I, M, here's A, M, I, and then that is it. So then so if you need to pause between, if you need to take time out right here, then take it, but make sure that it's with the correct fingering in both hands. Then, once you've got that, then start to put it in time. Count out loud while you're doing it, even if you're taking the corrective pauses. 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 1 and and that's our section. So take it each step at a time, absolute integrity for each individual part while you're doing it. Now, as you're doing that, and you can actually do it while you're doing the rhythm, what we can also do is we can also look at how are we going to phrase this? What's our expression of this line? So our main thing is this is in 3/4 time. This is our big beats, right? And we can see that because we have these big bass notes happening right here as well, right? 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1. So that's our main pulse of the piece. However, so those are our arrival points. But oftentimes it's the note right before the arrival that really makes the arrival good. So that one, especially when it's a half step, so just one fret away, like open to the first fret. So one of the things that we can do is 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. We can just think of that leading into the next beat. So we have 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2. I just changed the rhythm. 3, 1, 3, 1. So you just take note of it and think 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Always leading forward and just thinking of those as pairs of notes, 3 and 1. And so that will always move you across the bar and get you hearing the connection of the last note of the measure and the first note of the next measure. So that's one exercise to do, is just to go through, count it in that way, and it might be easier just to do it clapping and counting and singing. Another thing that we can do with our phrasing is that whenever notes go up, and this is just a general rule that works 85% of the time, 90% of the time, when the notes are going up in pitch, get quieter. That means get quieter. And whenever they're going down, get louder. So that went down, then that went back up all the way to there, all the way to there, and then it, so it gets quieter going up there, and now we're going down, we'll get louder, we jump up, we get quieter, we get louder, we get quieter. So you can look at if the note is higher than the note behind it, then you just get quieter. If it's lower, then you get louder. And so that works a lot of the time. It doesn't work in every situation, but it's a great place to start. And you can just easily look at the music and say, is it going up, is it going down? And so that can give you a contour to your line. So that's a great starting place. And so to listen to that, get quieter. Now get louder, quieter, and here. So you can just look at it and it's a place to start, right? It also gives a consistency to the entire piece of music when you do it like that. And so it all feels cut from the same cloth when you do it this way. There are some other things. Whenever you have a big jump like this, like the E going up to the A right here, you can sit a little heavy on that bottom note and then get quieter up to the top note just like you would. But you can just give it a little bit more emphasis. Same thing right here. This one's a skip up from there to there. So give it just a little bit of weight right there because we're jumping up, not when you jump down. But so and here and to here. It just leads us forward into the next line, into the next string of notes. And this is something you have to practice to get. You're not going to just play it once and then just have it forever. It's something that you have to really make a decision on when you're working on it. And then as you practice it, you have to do it every single time. You can't just expect it to just happen because it won't. So it's something that you really have to focus on and stay. It will take 100% of your bandwidth to do this. To get your right hand fingerings, to get your left hand fingerings, to get the rhythm, and to get all these things. There's no time to think about the grocery list or the politics or what you saw on TV last night. There just isn't. It takes 100% of your brain to do this. And so if it's not happening, just keep working at it. Slow down is the other thing because speed creates the illusion of perfection, but it causes more problems than it creates. So, or it causes more problems than it fixes. So if anything's happening that doesn't seem right, number one thing to do, slow down and go back to this process. Do I have the rhythm right? Is my right hand right? Is my left hand right? And am I putting them together right? And then am I doing what I want as far as my swells and fades and all this as well. So this is practice section 1 in version 1 of this. And in the next video, we will go forward into practice section 2. We've laid a lot of groundwork here, but there is still a lot of other things to talk about. So see you in the next one. Take care.